Okay, let's dive into this. We're jumping right into one of the most wonderfully wacky places ever dreamed up. It was created by a guy named Edward Lear. Now, he was an absolute master of something called literary nonsense. Basically, stories and poems that are perfectly, delightfully goofy and meant to make us giggle. We are about to meet a super mysterious character who wears the absolute wildest piece of clothing you have ever heard of. So get ready, because this is the giant tale of the Quangle Wangle's hat.
But hold on a second. Before we actually meet this mysterious friend, I really want you to use your imagination. What would you do with a hat that is literally 102 feet wide? Seriously, try to picture that. I mean, when you throw on a baseball cap, it just fits perfectly right on your head, right? But 102 feet? That is mind-bogglingly huge. Would you use it as a giant umbrella? Or, oh, maybe flip it over and turn it into a massive tent for a camping trip? Keep that completely gigantic hat in your mind, because it is the real star of our explainer today.
Okay, check out this strange and colorful spot. This right here is the very top of the crumpety tree. Notice those funny little red shapes hanging on the branches? They look exactly like little crumpets. You know, those little pancake things. And sitting right up there at the tippity top is the Quangle Wangle Quee. But wait a minute. Can you actually see his face? Nope. It is totally, completely hidden underneath that massive beaver hat. The poem actually tells us it's covered in ribbons and bibbins and buttons and loops and lace. Just imagine the crazy sounds it makes when the wind blows. Ding-a-ling, ding-a-ling! All those little golden bells swing back and forth. It's an incredible hat for sure. But you know, hiding under there all by himself, he looks just a little bit lonely, doesn't he? Let's just pause for a second, because I really want to make sure we're grasping just how ridiculously huge this hat is. 102 feet wide. Okay, to put that into perspective, just picture your absolute favorite playground. Now imagine taking the Quangle Wangle's hat and dropping it right in the middle. It would probably stretch from the swings all the way across the monkey bars, past the slide, and right out to the edge of the grass. We're talking about something basically the size of a giant house, just balancing right on top of his head.
So, living way up on the crumpety tree with a hat the size of a literal playground, you're probably wondering, what exactly does the Quangle Wangle eat? Well, he actually tells us. His go-to snacks are jam, jelly, and bread. Honestly, that sounds like a pretty fantastic, sweet little picnic. But here's the sad part. So the crucial point is, even with all that super yummy jam and jelly, the Quangle Wangle is just not very happy. He sits up there thinking about how plain and boring his life is because, well, nobody ever comes to visit him. He's got the coolest hat ever and the best snacks, but he is just so lonely.
But right when the Quangle Wangle is feeling absolutely miserable and alone, guess who flutters on by? Mr. and Mrs. Canary. Just picture a tiny yellow bird fluttering up and asking in this super polite, tiny, squeaky little voice, "Did ever you see any spot so charmingly airy? May we build a nest on your lovely hat? Mr. Quangle Wangle, grant us that. Oh, please, let us come and build a nest." They seriously don't mind the giant hat at all. Actually, they think it's the perfect breezy spot to set up a home. And since he's a pretty sweet guy, the Quangle Wangle is more than happy to let them stay.
Well, as you might guess, word travels incredibly fast in the animal kingdom. Once the canaries got settled and everyone saw how awesome it was to live on a 102-foot beaver hat, things escalated really quickly. That quiet, lonely top of the crumpety tree? Yeah, it's about to get incredibly busy. With a massive whoosh and a whole bunch of flapping wings and scampering paws, an entire parade of the silliest animals you can imagine decides that they want to live on the hat, too.
I mean, just get a load of this guest list. First up, we've got a tall stork, then a quacking duck, and a wise, hooting owl. Right behind them is a slow little snail sliding its way up the tree trunk, followed by a buzzing bumblebee and a hopping green frog. But okay, the absolute silliest of all is a creature Edward Lear just completely made up, the thimble fowl. And what exactly is a thimble fowl's deal? He has a corkscrew leg. Just imagine a totally goofy bird bouncing its way up a tree on a leg shaped exactly like a giant, twisty metal spring. Boing, boing, boing. And every single one of them is politely asking, "We humbly beg we may build our homes on your lovely hat."
And it doesn't stop there. No way. The creatures just keep getting weirder and honestly more wonderful. Next to show up is the golden grouse, and then this thing called a pobble. And his special feature? He doesn't have any toes. Like, try balancing on a giant hat with 0 toes. Good luck with that. Then comes the small Olympian bear and the dong. The dong is absolutely amazing because he has a luminous nose.
Literally, his nose glows in the dark like a giant, shiny flashlight. And trailing right behind him is the blue baboon, who actually brought along his flute to play some tunes, plus the Orient calf from the land of Toot, the Addery squash, and the bisky bat. It's a full-on, crazy, chaotic zoo up there.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how much things have completely flipped around. On one hand, we've got how the whole story started. Just the Quangle Wangle, all by his lonesome, face totally hidden, sitting on an empty tree. Pretty gloomy, right? But then, look at the complete opposite. That hat is packed. We're talking bears, birds, frogs, baboons, monkeys, all just squished together right in the middle of all those ribbons and bells. The Crumpety Tree has totally transformed from the loneliest spot on Earth to the absolute busiest, most crowded hat in the entire world.
Now, think about it. If you suddenly had a bear, a baboon playing a flute, a guy with a glowing nose, and like a dozen squawking birds living right on top of your head, you'd probably think it would be super annoying, right? I mean, it would definitely be loud. Quack, hoot, buzz, ribbit, the whole shebang. But you know what? The Quangle Wangle Quee didn't get mad at all. He didn't yell at them to shoo. He just smiled to himself underneath that massive hat and thought, when all these creatures move, what a wonderful noise there'll be. He didn't hear a big, messy racket. He heard the sound of friends. He finally realized that all that noise meant he wasn't alone anymore.
And since they were all having such a blast living together, they decided to throw a massive party. When the sun went down, that's when the fun really kicked into high gear. The poem says that at night, under the soft, glowing light of the mulberry moon, all the animals climbed down from the hat. They all gathered together on the big, broad, green leaves of the Crumpety Tree. The blue baboon pulled out his flute and started playing this bouncy, beautiful little tune. And literally every single creature, from the tiniest snail to the giant Olympian bear, danced together in the moonlight. It was just the most magical, joyful party you could possibly imagine.
So, as we wrap up our absolutely amazing explainer today, I really want to touch on the true magic of this poem. Edward Lear was totally writing a silly, wacky nonsense story, for sure. But he was also sneaking in a really beautiful lesson for us. And it's simply this: joy grows when it's shared with others. What that actually means is that happiness gets so much bigger when you invite friends to be a part of it. Think about it. The Quangle Wangle had the coolest, most mind-blowing hat in the world and literally all the jam and jelly he could ever eat. But none of it really mattered when he was all alone. By opening up his hat and sharing what he had with the weirdest, wackiest bunch of friends ever, his sad little tree turned into a place filled with music, dancing, and just pure joy.
Which leaves us with one final, super important question for you to chew on. If you had a 102-foot hat, covered in bells, ribbons, buttons, and lace, what silly creatures would you invite to live on it? Would you invite a herd of polka-dotted elephants? Or, I don't know, maybe a flying turtle? What about a cheetah that just loves to tap dance? Just remember, the more friends you share your hat with, the more wonderful the noise is going to be. So keep using that incredible imagination of yours. Always remember to share your joy with others, and we will see you next time for another super exciting explainer.